The 18-wheeler rumbled down the highway like a predator in the night, its headlights slicing through the darkness, its massive tires gripping the asphalt with relentless force. The trucker sat behind the wheel, his face illuminated by the dull glow of the dashboard, his hands steady, his eyes cold. He had been driving for hours, the miles rolling beneath him like an endless tide, but he was not tired. He never was. He had a job to do. A purpose. And he was just getting started. He had chosen this highway for a reason. It was long, lonely, a stretch of asphalt that cut through the wilderness like a scar. No cameras. No traffic patrol. Just the occasional traveler, lost in the night, unaware that death was rolling up behind them at 70 miles per hour. The trucker had spent years perfecting his craft, learning the backroads, studying the way the traffic flowed, the blind spots where no one would see. He had become a ghost on the road, a phantom in the rearview mirror that appeared only for a moment, just long enough for his victims to realize they had made a mistake. The first car of the night appeared in the distance, its taillights glowing red against the black. A small sedan, moving just under the speed limit, cautious. He could see the silhouette of the driver through the windshield, a lone figure hunched over the wheel, probably tired, probably distracted. Perfect. He eased his foot onto the accelerator, the truck groaning as it picked up speed, closing the distance between them. The game had begun. The trucker knew how to make it look like an accident. A well-timed nudge to the rear bumper, a sudden shift in the lanes, a high beam flashed at the right moment to blind the driver, so many ways to send a car careening off the road, flipping, rolling, crashing. And no one would ever suspect him. No one ever did. Truckers were the lifeblood of the highway, the unnoticed giants of the road. No one questioned them. No one thought twice when an accident report mentioned a mechanical failure or driver fatigue. But this was not fatigue. This was not failure. This was intentional. He reached beneath the dashboard, fingers wrapping around the cold steel of the modified shotgun mounted just below the steering column. Custom built for precision, for power. A single well-placed shot could blow out a tire at 70 miles per hour, send a vehicle spiraling into oblivion before anyone could react. He had done it before. He would do it again. The sedan in front of him drifted slightly to the right, the driver reaching for something, probably a phone, maybe a drink. He smiled. That was all the hesitation he needed. He pulled up close, the truck looming over the smaller car, casting it in shadow. A predator and its prey. The sedan's brake lights flickered as the driver glanced in the rearview mirror, probably realizing for the first time just how close the truck was. Fear. Panic. He could feel it from here. He raised the shotgun, aimed carefully through the windshield, and fired. The blast echoed through the night, swallowed by the roar of the truck's engine. The sedan jerked violently, the rear tire exploding into a cloud of rubber and smoke. The driver lost control instantly, the car swerving wildly, its headlights swinging across the road as it skidded sideways. A scream, faint, distant, was lost in the chaos as the sedan flipped, rolling end over end, metal shrieking, glass shattering. By the time it came to a stop, it was nothing more than a crumpled wreck, steam rising from the twisted remains. The trucker didn't slow down. He never did. There was no need. No one had seen. No one would stop. He kept moving, the destruction fading into the darkness behind him, just another accident, just another statistic. The thrill pulsed through him, electric and sharp. He had done it again. He had taken another one. And no one would ever know. He drove for another hour before stopping at a truck stop on the outskirts of a small town. It was one of those places where no one asked questions, where truckers came and went like ghosts, their faces blending into the background, their stories left untold. He parked in the back lot, away from the main lights, stepping out of the cab, stretching. The night air was cool, crisp, the distant hum of the highway like a whisper in his ears. Inside the truck stop, he ordered a coffee, sat in the corner, listened. The news played on a small TV mounted above the counter, the anchor's voice droning on about politics, weather, nothing important. But then, a report. A crash. A fatal accident on the highway. Authorities were investigating. No survivors. He smiled into his coffee. They would find nothing. They never did. The next day, he was back on the road, the endless highway stretching before him, waiting. And so was he. Another night. Another car. Another kill. The road would never run out of prey. And neither would he. The trucker continued down the endless stretch of highway, his 18-wheeler roaring through the night like a beast on the hunt. The recent kill still burned fresh in his veins, the thrill of watching the sedan lose control, metal twisting, glass shattering, bodies flung through the air like rag dolls. It had been too easy. It was always too easy. And that was what made it perfect. He had perfected the art of making it look like an accident. A tire blowout. A sudden swerve. The impact of a vehicle slamming into a guardrail at 70 miles per hour left little for investigators to question. A drunk driver. A moment of distraction. A freak mechanical failure. That was all they would see. That was all they ever saw. They never suspected the shadow of a truck lurking behind them, the cold calculation behind each incident. But for him, it wasn't an accident. It was intentional. The road was his hunting ground, and the vehicles that shared it were nothing more than prey. His fingers tapped against the wheel, his eyes flicking to the rear-view mirror. The wreck was far behind him now, lost in the dark stretch of highway. There were no flashing blue lights, no sirens. Just him and the open road. But he wasn't done yet. Not even close. Up ahead, a lone pair of taillights flickered in the distance, another car moving just below the speed limit. He studied it from afar, watching the way it moved, looking for signs of weakness. It was a smaller vehicle, a compact SUV, maybe a family heading home late, maybe a tired traveler looking for the next motel. It didn't matter. All that mattered was that they were next. He inched forward, letting his rig slowly close the distance between them. The truck's headlights bathed the SUV in an eerie white glow, the driver inside likely noticing the massive vehicle creeping up behind them. He could see them tense, gripping the wheel tighter, maybe wondering if they should switch lanes, maybe just praying the truck would pass them by. But he wouldn't. Not yet. He played with them first. A slow creep closer. A flash of high beams in their rearview mirror, blinding them for just a moment. The SUV swerved slightly, overcorrecting, but staying on course. The driver was nervous now. He could feel it. Then came the real test. He reached under the dashboard, fingers finding the shotgun mounted below. His weapon of choice. Modified for precision, designed to fire a single shot without leaving too much evidence. He had learned long ago how to angle it just right, how to take out a rear tire at high speeds without alerting passing drivers. A single pull of the trigger. That's all it took. But something made him hesitate. A flicker of movement. A shift in the shadows beyond the SUV's taillights. His foot eased off the accelerator slightly, his eyes narrowing. Something wasn't right. The SUV kept driving, unaware of his moment of hesitation, but he couldn't shake the feeling. The kind of feeling that settled in the gut like a warning. Then the CB radio crackled to life. Static. A garbled mess of white noise and faint voices. He hadn't touched it. No one had used the radio all night. But now, through the static, a voice cut through. A whisper. Low. Hollow. Familiar. Calling his name. His real name. The one he hadn't used in years. His fingers curled around the wheel, his breath steady, but his pulse ticked faster beneath the surface. He never used his real name. Not anymore. The radio crackled again. The same whisper. The same name. Then, laughter. Not normal laughter. Distorted. Warped. Like something trying to mimic human sound and failing. The hair on the back of his neck rose. This was wrong. This was very wrong. His eyes flicked back to the SUV, still in front of him, still leading him somewhere. That was the first time it hit him. He wasn't hunting them. They were leading him. His foot slammed on the brakes, the truck jerking violently, the weight of the trailer pulling against him. The tires shrieked against the asphalt, the entire rig groaning in protest as it came to a sudden stop in the middle of the road. The SUV kept going. Never slowing. Never stopping. Just driving. Like it had never even noticed him. The radio went silent. The headlights flickered. And for the first time in years, he felt something new. A presence. Something watching him. His breathing slowed, his mind racing. He wasn't scared. He had spent his life preying on others, taking what he wanted, killing when it suited him. But this was different. He had felt in control before. Now he felt watched. And that made his blood run cold. The road behind him stretched into darkness. The SUV was gone. But he wasn't alone. Not anymore. Something was out there. And it was waiting. His hand reached for the gear shift, ready to move again, ready to put distance between himself and whatever this was. But before he could, a single knock. From inside the sleeper compartment. His blood turned to ice. He was alone. Wasn't he? The knock came again. Slow. Deliberate. He turned his head, his body moving stiffly, as if something was forcing him to look. The darkness inside the cab felt heavier now. Thicker. Then, the door to the sleeper creaked open. And something stepped out. His lungs locked. It wasn't possible. It couldn't be him. But it was. Standing in the dim glow of the dashboard lights. Him. Same clothes. Same face. But the eyes were different. Empty. Black. Smiling. And then. It spoke. Not with words. Not with sound. But inside his head. Telling him something he already knew. Something he had refused to admit. Something he had been running from all along. You were never the hunter. You were always the prey. The trucker's breath hitched. The world around him twisted. And the highway swallowed him whole. The next morning, a truck was found on the side of the road. Engine running. Doors locked. No driver. No signs of a struggle. Just an empty cab. Waiting. And a single word written on the windshield in blood. Hunted. The road does not forget. And the road always collects its debts. The 18-wheeler sat abandoned on the side of the highway, its engine humming like a living thing left behind. The cab was empty. No footprints in the dirt. No signs of a struggle. Just a truck that should have had a driver but didn't. No one stopped. No one questioned it. Because on these roads, some things were best left alone. By the time the sun rose, highway patrol had found it, their boots crunching against the asphalt as they circled the vehicle. They expected to find the usual, a driver who had fallen asleep, a stolen rig, maybe a body slumped over the wheel. But when they pried open the locked doors, there was nothing. The keys were still in the ignition. The seatbelt was undone. A cup of coffee sat in the cup holder, still warm. The radio was on, whispering static, and on the windshield, written in streaks of red, "Hunted." They searched for hours, combing the fields, the ditches, the tree line beyond the road. There was nothing. No tracks leading away from the truck. No blood. No sign that anyone had ever been there at all. The records were checked. The plates were clean. The VIN number led to nothing but dead ends. A ghost truck. By nightfall, the rig was towed away. Logged. Forgotten. But the road did not forget. And neither did he. 2 days later. The highway was empty again, stretching into the distance like a black ribbon through the night. The wind howled through the trees, shaking the branches, making them whisper secrets to the dark. A truck's headlights flickered in the distance. Another rig. Another driver. The 18-wheeler rolled down the road like it had been there all along, engine humming steadily, the glow of the dashboard lights painting the cab in eerie orange. The driver sat behind the wheel, his hands steady, his eyes locked on the road. But he did not remember getting into the cab. Did not remember turning the key. Did not remember where he was going. Only that he had to keep driving. Because that's what he was made for. The radio crackled. A whisper. Soft. Familiar. Do you remember now? His breath hitched. A shadow moved in the reflection of the windshield. And in the passenger seat. A figure sat. Waiting. Smiling. The road stretched ahead, endless, hungry. And the driver kept driving. Because the hunt never ends. The road always takes back what it owns. The truck rolled through the night, an unstoppable force on an endless road. The driver sat behind the wheel, his hands steady, his face blank. The hum of the engine filled the cab, the vibrations sinking into his bones. But something was wrong. He didn't remember getting into the truck. Didn't remember the last time he had eaten. Didn't remember who he was. The road stretched ahead, its black veins pulsing under the weight of the 18-wheeler. The trees on either side blurred together, their branches stretching like skeletal fingers, clawing at the edges of his vision. He had been driving for hours. Maybe days. Maybe longer. The radio crackled. Static whispered through the speakers. Then. A voice. Soft. Familiar. Wrong. Do you remember now? His hands tightened on the wheel. No. He didn't want to remember. The windshield reflected the dim glow of the dashboard lights, casting a faint shadow over the empty seat beside him. But it wasn't empty. Something sat there. A figure. It looked like him. But it wasn't him. Its face was stretched too wide, the smile too sharp, the eyes nothing more than black pits sinking into its skull. It grinned. Keep driving. His breath hitched. He had to. He always had to. Because the road never ended. Because the hunt never ended. The headlights caught something ahead, taillights in the distance. A small car. A target. His fingers twitched. He had done this before. Hadn't he? He didn't know why. He didn't know when. But the urge crept through him like a hunger, curling in his stomach, itching beneath his skin. He reached under the dashboard. The cold metal of the shotgun met his palm. His breath slowed. Steady. He had done this so many times. The shotgun rose. His finger curled around the trigger. The car in front of him swayed slightly, the driver oblivious to the monster behind them. His mouth twitched. So easy. But then. The radio screamed. A burst of white noise so loud it rattled the cab. His vision blurred. His ears rang. The headlights flickered. And when they came back, the car was gone. The road ahead was empty. His breath came in sharp gasps. His fingers trembled. No. That wasn't possible. It had been right there. Hadn't it? The voice in the radio returned, softer now. Mocking. You were always the prey. A shadow flickered in the rear-view mirror. Something was in the sleeper compartment. Watching. Waiting. The whisper came again. Do you remember now? The truck rumbled forward. The driver's reflection in the windshield twisted, his eyes black, his mouth stretching into a grin too wide. And suddenly, he did. He remembered. The endless road. The endless hunt. The endless cycle. He was not the first. He would not be the last. The highway always took back what it owned. The world outside the truck warped, stretching into something not of this place. The last thing he saw was himself. Grinning. Waiting. And then. The truck vanished. The road was empty once more. Waiting for the next driver. Waiting for the next hunt. Because the road never ends. Because it never lets you leave. The highway was endless, stretching out like a black river beneath the wheels of the 18-wheeler. The driver had no destination, no past, no future, only the road, only the hum of the engine, only the voice whispering through the static. The truck moved like a living thing, like it knew where it was going even though he didn't. The night was thick, pressing against the windshield, the trees on either side of the road warping in the corners of his vision. He knew he had been driving for a long time, hours, days, maybe even weeks, but time didn't exist on this stretch of road. The radio crackled. The voice returned. You can't leave. His hands tightened on the wheel. He didn't remember where he had come from, but he knew he had been someone before. A man who hunted. A man who killed. A man who made cars disappear off the road, leaving nothing behind but twisted metal and bodies that no one would find. But now, he was the one being hunted. The road was different now. It watched him. The truck was his cage. The reflection in the windshield twitched. He wasn't alone in the cab anymore. Something sat in the passenger seat. Something that looked like him. His face. His eyes. But wrong. The grin stretched too wide, the eyes too black, too empty. The figure in the reflection tilted its head, studying him. Then it spoke. Do you remember now? The driver's breath was slow, steady, but his knuckles were white against the wheel. He couldn't answer. He didn't know what to say. Because he did remember. Flashes of taillights disappearing into the dark. The scream of tires. The way a car flips when it loses control at 80 miles per hour. The sound of a body breaking. His own laugh when it was over. He had been a ghost on the highway, a predator that no one had seen, no one had caught. The perfect killer. And now? Now he was trapped. The figure in the reflection grinned wider, its teeth sharp, jagged. You belong to the road now. A shape flickered in the side mirror. Headlights. A car was following him. His pulse kicked up. For a second, hope flickered through his mind. Maybe it was someone who could help. Maybe if he could pull over, get out of the truck, break free. The radio whispered again. They're not here to save you. The car behind him sped up. Getting closer. His breath turned shallow. His fingers twitched toward the shotgun under the dashboard. That had always been his weapon of choice. A well-placed shot at a moving car's tire, sending it flipping into the dark. He had done it so many times before. The car's headlights glared in the mirror. It was close now. Too close. The truck shuddered. The temperature inside the cab dropped. Then. The car was gone. Vanished. 1 second it was there. The next, nothing. Like it had never been there at all. The whisper in the radio laughed. The driver's stomach twisted. Something was wrong with the road. Something was wrong with the truck. Something was wrong with him. The voice in the reflection whispered again. You were never the hunter. You were always the prey. The headlights flickered. The radio screamed. A sound like metal grinding against metal, like 1,000 voices shrieking at once, ripping through his skull. The truck veered. His hands yanked the wheel, trying to control it, but it was like the rig had a mind of its own. The dashboard lights pulsed. The reflection in the windshield moved on its own. The grinning version of himself turned its head, but he hadn't moved. The world warped. The road stretched too far, the sky swallowing all light. And then, a wall of cars, lined up on the side of the highway. Wrecked. Twisted. Burnt. Dozens of them. Hundreds. All the cars he had ever taken. Their frames were mangled, shattered glass glittering under the headlights. Blood stained the metal. And the bodies. They were still inside. Their hollow eyes watched him. Mouths frozen open in screams that never ended. The truck's speed climbed. Faster. Faster. No. His foot slammed on the brakes. The truck didn't stop. It wouldn't stop. It wasn't his anymore. The whisper returned. Drive. The bodies in the wrecked cars twitched. Somewhere deep inside the truck, something knocked. The sleeper compartment. The driver didn't want to look. But he did. He turned his head. The door was open. And something crawled out. His own rotting body. Broken. Mangled. The corpse of every version of him that had ever driven this truck before. He tried to move. Tried to scream. The hands grabbed him. Pulled him into the dark. And the truck kept driving. 1 month later. A new driver sat in the 18-wheeler. His hands steady on the wheel. His mind blank. He didn't remember getting into the truck. Didn't remember where he was going. Didn't remember who he was. The CB radio crackled. A voice whispered through the static. Do you remember now? The road stretched ahead. Waiting. And the hunt never ended. The truck rumbled on, its tires humming against the endless stretch of highway. The driver sat behind the wheel, his grip steady, his gaze locked on the road ahead. The night wrapped around him like a heavy blanket, suffocating, unyielding. The road was all he had. But he didn't remember getting into the truck. Didn't remember where he was going. Didn't remember who he was. The CB radio crackled, its static whispering through the cab like a ghost trapped inside the wires. The driver didn't touch it. He hadn't touched it all night. But still, it spoke. Do you remember now? His fingers twitched against the wheel. The voice was familiar, yet distant, like something from a dream he had long forgotten. He wanted to ignore it, to keep driving, to pretend the question didn't claw at the back of his mind. But the whisper in the static would not let him go. The road stretched ahead, empty, endless. The headlights carved through the darkness, but the world beyond them did not exist. He had been driving forever, and yet the mile markers never changed. Something was wrong. The truck's mirrors reflected only the road behind him, a void of blackness that swallowed everything whole. He should have seen taillights. Another vehicle. Something. But there was nothing. His chest tightened. Then, in the side mirror, a flicker of movement. A shape. He didn't turn his head. He had learned not to. Instead, he watched from the corner of his eye as the figure appeared just beyond the reach of the headlights. Tall. Thin. Wrong. It stood on the road. Waiting. Watching. The whisper in the radio grew softer, almost amused. You never should have stopped. The trucker's breath came slow, measured. He had been in bad situations before, had faced things that should have broken him. But this was different. This was something he could not fight. The figure in the mirror stepped closer. No. It didn't step. It slid. As if the road was pulling it forward, as if gravity had no hold on it. A sound filled the cab, a slow, deliberate knocking. From the sleeper compartment behind him. The trucker's pulse spiked. He didn't turn. He wouldn't turn. The knocking came again. 3 slow beats. Knock. 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 Like something inside the truck wanted to get out. But he was alone. Wasn't he? The radio crackled again. You brought us here. His hands clenched the wheel. The truck's engine groaned like it was fighting against something, the entire rig shuddering under its own weight. The headlights flickered. For a split second, the road ahead was gone. Nothing but darkness. Then the lights returned, and the trucker saw it. A wall of wreckage. Burnt-out cars. Twisted metal. Bodies still inside. Hundreds of them. Lined up along the road like tombstones. The truck's brakes screamed as he slammed his foot down, trying to stop, trying to turn, but the steering wheel wouldn't budge. The truck kept going. Straight toward the wreckage. The whisper in the radio sighed. You were always going to come back. The truck slammed into the first wreck, but instead of the crash, instead of the impact, the world folded. The road twisted. The night swallowed everything whole. He was falling. Falling through something that wasn't real. Falling through memories. Taillights disappearing into the dark. The scream of tires. The way a car flips when it loses control at 80 miles per hour. The sound of a body breaking. His own laugh. The trucker gasped as he woke up. Sitting behind the wheel. The engine humming. The dashboard glowing. The road stretching out ahead. The wreckage was gone. The figure in the mirror was gone. But the whisper remained. Soft. Gentle. Do you remember now? He did. He had died on this road. A long time ago. The moment he had pulled that trigger. The moment he had flipped that last car. He had thought himself untouchable. He had thought himself a hunter. But the road had taken him. And now, he was just another ghost behind the wheel. Another driver lost to the highway. Another name that would never be spoken again. The truck rumbled forward. The radio whispered. And the road never ended. The road had no end. The truck roared forward, a metal beast enslaved to the asphalt, its headlights cutting through the abyss of the night. The driver's hands gripped the wheel, his knuckles pale and stiff, but he felt nothing. He didn't know how long he had been driving, only that he had to keep moving. The whisper in the radio was constant now. Soft, patient. Do you remember now? He didn't want to remember. But the road didn't care what he wanted. Something was waiting for him. The 18-wheeler hummed with an unnatural energy, like it had a mind of its own. The world outside was wrong, the trees lining the road bent in impossible angles, stretching toward the sky as if trying to escape. The stars above looked different, unfamiliar constellations that pulsed as if alive. He was not in the world he knew anymore. And deep inside, he knew he would never leave. The knocking from the sleeper compartment came again. Slow. Deliberate. Knock. 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 It had been growing louder for miles now, a sound that seemed to crawl through his bones. He had refused to turn around. Had refused to look. Because he knew what he would see. But now, he had no choice. The truck was stopping. Not by his doing. The brakes hissed, the tires screamed, and the entire rig groaned as if resisting the force pulling it down. The highway stretched into infinity, but the truck had reached its destination. The whisper in the radio sighed. "It's time." The driver exhaled. And he turned around. The sleeper compartment door was open. Something stood inside. Something that should not exist. It was him. But not him. A twisted, rotting reflection, as if something had crawled out of his own corpse and taken his place. Its face was barely human. Skin peeled away, revealing muscle and bone. Mouth stretched too wide, teeth jagged and broken. Eyes black voids, staring into him, through him. It grinned. And stepped forward. The driver's body refused to move. His mind screamed to run, but the truck had no doors anymore. No escape. The thing that was him tilted its head, studying him. Then, slowly, it raised its hand. And pointed to the windshield. The driver turned back. The road was gone. Replaced by a field of wreckage. Hundreds of vehicles. Some twisted and rusted, others fresh, as if they had crashed only moments ago. The bodies were still inside. And they were moving. The truck's headlights illuminated their broken forms, faces frozen in agony, arms reaching through shattered glass. They were trying to get out. Trying to reach him. His own voice whispered inside his head. "You did this." The memories hit him all at once. Every car he had taken off the road. Every life he had ended. He had thought himself a predator. Thought himself invincible. But the road had never forgotten. And now, it had come for him. The whisper in the radio turned into laughter. Low. Mocking. The truck lurched forward. The wreckage in front of him began to shift. Bodies crawled out of the cars, dragging themselves toward the rig, toward him. Their faces were familiar. People he had watched die. People whose last screams had been swallowed by the night. People who should have been gone. But the road had kept them. Just as it had kept him. The driver's breath came in sharp, ragged bursts. No. This wasn't real. This couldn't be real. He slammed his foot on the accelerator. The truck didn't move. The figures reached the hood. Their shattered hands scraped against the glass. Their eyes, or what was left of them, locked onto his. A chorus of voices whispered in unison. Time to pay. The glass shattered. The hands grabbed him. Pulled him through the windshield. The last thing he saw was the road opening beneath him. Swallowing him whole. The next morning. The highway was empty. No truck. No wreckage. Nothing. Just an endless stretch of road. Waiting. Another 18-wheeler rolled by, its headlights cutting through the fog. The driver inside stared ahead, hands steady on the wheel. But his reflection in the windshield was not his own. The whisper in the radio crackled. Do you remember now? The truck rumbled forward. The road always takes back what it owns. And it was always hungry.